The rescue and the spark. The desert world was silent, except for the wind that moved the sand in restless waves. It was a lonely planet, far from the crowded trade routes of the galaxy. On its surface, hidden among the ruins of an old mining station, a young human soldier struggled to breathe. His ship had been destroyed in orbit. He had fallen with the wreckage, crashing onto the hard ground. His armor was broken, his lungs burned, and every step felt like the last he could take. He did not know who was hunting him, only that someone was. Dark shapes moved in the distance, their outlines sharp against the sun. They were not human. Their armor was jagged, their movements quick. They were soldiers of a rival species, and they carried the cold patience of predators. They wanted the human alive, but only barely. The soldier leaned against a broken wall, coughing into his hand. He knew he would not last. His comms were dead, his weapon low on charge. He closed his eyes for a second, ready to meet whatever fate came for him. That was when another figure appeared. She was not human. Her skin was pale silver in the sunlight, her armor smooth and curved instead of sharp. She moved with speed, but also with care, as if every step carried weight. In her eyes there was no hatred, only a strange silence. She had watched the hunt from afar. She had no reason to interfere. Her people had no love for humans, and most avoided them. But something in her refused to turn away. She stepped forward, drawing a long blade that hummed with energy. The hunters noticed her too late. By the time they turned, 2 had already fallen, their armor cut apart in sparks of light. The others charged, but she did not step back. She moved with precision, each strike cutting the air, each movement faster than the eye could follow. The human soldier lifted his head in disbelief. He had expected to see his death, but instead he saw his savior. An alien, one who should have left him to die, now stood between him and the hunters. The fight did not last long. When the dust cleared, the ground was littered with broken weapons and silent bodies. The alien warrior stood breathing hard, her blade dripping faint light before fading into silence. She turned toward the soldier. For a moment neither spoke. He did not understand why she had helped him, and she did not fully understand either. But in that silence something passed between them. She walked closer and extended her hand. The human stared at it, his body weak but his mind sharp. In his training, he had been told many times, humans had allies, humans had enemies, and sometimes the line between them shifted like sand in the wind. But he had never been told what to do when an enemy saved his life. Slowly he reached out and took her hand. Her grip was strong, steady. She pulled him to his feet. The human soldier whispered a single word of thanks. She only nodded. High above the planet, the stars were watching. Fleets carried their news across systems, stations, and colonies. Someone had saved a human. Someone who was not human. That act, small as it seemed, was not small at all, because in the galaxy there was one truth everyone knew. To harm a human was to risk Earth's anger. To rescue a human was something far greater. The alien did not yet know what her choice meant. She thought it was a moment of mercy, a decision made in silence. But beyond the desert, signals moved at the speed of light. The story spread. Whispers grew into voices, voices grew into fear. In command rooms far away, human leaders listened. They heard that one of their own had been saved by an outsider. For humanity, this was no small act. For humanity, loyalty was a promise written in fire. If you stood with them, they would stand with you. If you defended them, they would defend you until the stars themselves burned out. And so, from that lonely desert world, a spark was lit. One act of mercy had started a chain that could not be undone. Humanity had taken notice. Earth had begun to move. The alien who offered her hand did not yet see the fleets gathering, the soldiers preparing, or the weapons awakening from their sleep. She did not yet see how her single choice would bend the path of entire worlds, but the galaxy would see soon enough, because saving a human was never simple. It was a decision that would echo through every star system, a decision that would bring Earth into the fight. And Earth never fought halfway. The weight of a choice, The alien warrior stood on the edge of the ruined station, her blade still warm from battle. Around her lay the broken forms of the hunters, their bodies silent against the sand. She had not planned this. She had not thought of what would follow. She had only acted. One human had been cornered, and she had stepped forward. It was done, but the galaxy was never blind. The human soldier leaned against a cracked wall, still catching his breath. His wounds were painful, but his eyes were sharp. He studied her with a mix of fear and wonder. He knew what her choice meant, even if she did not. She had interfered in a hunt, and that was not something easily forgotten. They did not speak much. Their languages were different, but silence carried its own message. She helped him walk. Together they crossed the burning sands, leaving behind the wreckage that would soon be discovered. Far away, the hunters' distress signals were already moving through the stars. Commanders received them, leaders questioned them, and whispers spread like fire through dry grass. A human was rescued. A human was saved by another species. The words passed from system to system, each telling growing sharper than the last. To most of the galaxy, it was madness. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and fierce. Protecting them was a risk. Saving them was almost an invitation to war. The alien warrior returned to her outpost, hoping for silence, but silence never came. Her superiors summoned her. In the great hall of her people, under the banners of her clan, she stood before the council. Their eyes were hard. "You interfered in a hunt," one said. "You shed blood for an outsider," another added. She did not bow her head. Her voice was calm. "He would have died. I could not stand aside." Her words were simple, but the weight of them was heavy. The council did not reply at once. Some whispered among themselves. Others stared with cold suspicion. At last, the leader spoke. "You have bound yourself to them. You have made their fight your own." She left the chamber with her heart heavy, for she knew the truth of their words. The act was done, and it could not be undone. Meanwhile, in the deep command centers of Earth, the news reached human ears. The soldier had survived long enough to send fragments of a signal. Combined with intercepted transmissions, the story became clear. An alien had saved him. On Earth, such news was not taken lightly. Generals gathered, admirals leaned over maps of stars, and the quiet voices of leaders grew sharp. They knew what this meant. Someone had stood with a human, risking everything. And for humans, loyalty was not forgotten. A single choice had awakened something vast. Orders spread. Fleets shifted course. Armies prepared. The sound of engines echoed in orbit, a steady thunder that promised movement. Across colonies and stations, humans whispered the same thought: we do not leave our own. We do not forget those who stand with us. The alien warrior did not know yet what storm she had called. She only felt the stares of her people, some of fear, some of anger. Friends grew distant, commanders gave cold orders, and whispers followed her through every hall. She wondered if she had made a mistake, if she should have turned away. But then she remembered the soldier's eyes, the way he had looked at her with both confusion and hope. She remembered the moment he had taken her hand, weak though he was, and held on. In that small act, she had seen something she could not explain. Still, the weight pressed on her shoulders. In her private chamber, she looked at her blade, cleaned now of battle, and asked herself if one life was worth the risk of many. She did not have the answer. Out among the stars, however, Earth was answering for her. War machines came awake, hangars opened, and soldiers prepared. Humanity was not quiet. Humanity was never quiet, and soon the galaxy would feel it. The gathering storm. The galaxy had always watched humanity with unease. Some feared them, others respected them, and many simply avoided their path. But now, whispers turned into warnings. An alien had saved a human. It was a choice too loud to ignore. On Earth, the news spread through command halls and government chambers like fire on dry grass. In the great war rooms, maps of star systems glowed in blue light. Generals leaned forward, their faces tense. Admirals called in their fleets. Every officer understood the same truth. If someone stood with humanity, then humanity would stand with them. And if enemies rose against that choice, Earth would meet them head-on. Orders were given, sharp and final. In orbit above Earth, Titanic warships rumbled to life. Their engines glowed with white fury as they prepared to break through the black sea of space. Across colonies, soldiers trained without pause, preparing for battles that had not yet come but already felt certain. The alien warrior, far away on her own world, felt the pressure growing heavier each day. Her people whispered her name with fear. Some called her foolish, others called her a traitor. Even her closest friends kept their distance, afraid of being linked to her decision. She had saved one human soldier, and now the shadow of war stretched over her entire race. She tried to return to duty, to pretend the act was small, but everywhere she went, eyes followed her. Leaders summoned her again and again, demanding reasons she could not give. Why defend him? They asked. Why risk us all for him? She had no answer except the truth, because he was about to die, and she could not watch it happen. But truth did not calm the fear. Her commanders warned her, "You have invited danger. Earth will not forget this act, and neither will our enemies." They were right. Earth had not forgotten. Human fleets moved like storms. From Mars, from the Jovian moons, from the far colonies at the edge of known space, ships launched one after another. Their black hulls caught the light of distant suns, their insignias painted bold against the void, and wherever they gathered, the message was the same. Earth does not abandon those who stand with us. For alien civilizations across the stars, panic began to grow. They remembered old battles with humans, wars fought with brutal resolve. They remembered stories of human soldiers who fought long after hope was gone, who refused to surrender even when surrounded. They remembered that to anger humanity was to invite a storm that did not stop until everything was silent. And now it seemed that storm was waking again. The alien warrior sat alone in her chamber at night, staring at the stars beyond her window. She thought of the human soldier she had saved, his quiet eyes, his broken armor, the way he had whispered thanks. Did he know what had begun because of that moment? Did he understand the weight that had fallen onto her shoulders? Perhaps he did. Perhaps humans always understood, because far away, in the heart of Earth's fleet, that same soldier now stood before human commanders. He told them of the battle, of the hunters, of the alien who had stepped forward. His voice was weak but steady. He spoke of her courage. He spoke of how she had fought when she did not have to, and how she had extended her hand when death was closer than hope. The commanders listened in silence. When he finished, there was no debate. The decision was already made. Humanity would fight for her. From that moment, the galaxy began to tremble. Traders whispered of massive fleets gathering. Spies reported human armies training in silence. On distant worlds, leaders argued in fear, wondering if they should support humanity or prepare to fight against them. And through it all, one truth remained unshaken. A single choice had begun this storm. One alien had saved a human, and now Earth would move heaven and stars to defend her. The gathering storm was no longer just a shadow. It was here, alive, and soon it would break. The war ignites. The first shot of war was not fired by Earth. It came from those who feared what was coming. On a border colony, human transports were attacked without warning. The ships never made it to their destination. The galaxy understood the meaning of this. It was not just a strike, it was a challenge. Humanity answered. From Earth and its colonies, the fleets that had been waiting finally moved. They did not come in silence. They came like thunder rolling across the black sky. Massive carriers, heavy cruisers, and fast strike ships jumped into enemy space with precision. Their engines burned like stars, and their weapons lit the void with fire. The first battles shook entire systems. Human soldiers fought with a discipline that other races had forgotten. They moved in unity, their voices steady, their weapons merciless. When the enemy struck at one ship, 3 more answered. When they tried to break one line, humans filled the gap with steel and blood. The alien warrior, far from the front lines, watched the news in silence. Her act of mercy had become a war of nations. Entire fleets moved now because of her choice. She wondered if she had doomed her people. Yet deep inside she also felt something else. Pride. She had saved a life, and that life had been honored by millions. Humanity had not forgotten her. They had not let her stand alone. The enemy was not unprepared. They gathered their own fleets, great armadas of dark ships, each bristling with weapons. They believed numbers would crush humans. They believed speed would outmatch them. But they did not understand the human heart. When humans fought, they did not measure battles in ships or weapons. They measured them in loyalty, in promises, in the memory of those who had fallen before. And in those measures, humanity was endless. The war spread quickly. In asteroid belts, humans fought brutal skirmishes, boarding enemy ships in hand-to-hand combat. On frozen moons, they dug trenches and held their ground against waves of attackers. In deep space, battles between massive fleets lit up the void for hours, until nothing was left but drifting wreckage. Each time humans fought not only for themselves, but for the alien who had once stepped forward. Her name began to spread among the soldiers. They spoke of her with respect, as if she was already one of their own. They said, "She chose us, so now we choose her." Meanwhile, the galaxy trembled. Neutral species tried to stay out of the conflict, but the storm was too large. Some were dragged into battle unwillingly, their worlds caught between fleets. Others chose to side with Earth, believing loyalty to humans was safer than standing against them. For every ally Earth gained, the enemy grew more desperate. The alien warrior was torn between fear and awe. She had wanted only to save one life, but now she saw armies rise in her defense. Her people accused her of betrayal, yet she also saw how humans treated her choice as sacred, as something worth entire fleets. She began to realize the depth of human loyalty. It was not just words, it was action, fierce and unstoppable. On one distant battlefield, the human soldier she had rescued fought again. His wounds had healed, and now he carried the banner of Earth's fleet. He told his comrades the story of how she had saved him. His voice carried across ships, across units, and soon every soldier knew it. The tale became a rallying cry. One alien stood for us, now we stand for her. The war burned hotter, cities fell, space stations shattered, and countless lives were lost. Yet with every loss, humans grew sharper, stronger, more determined. They did not retreat, they did not surrender. Their enemies began to realize that they had not sparked a simple conflict. They had woken something far more dangerous, a war machine driven not by conquest, but by loyalty. The alien warrior finally stood before her council again. Her leaders demanded that she renounce the humans, that she cut all ties, but she could not. She looked at them and said, "They fight for me. I will not turn from them." The hall was silent. Some looked at her with rage, others with fear. But deep in her heart, she felt steady. She was no longer just an outsider who had made a mistake. She was part of something larger now, something that moved like a storm across the stars. And the storm was only beginning. The legacy of a rescue. The war had burned across the stars for weeks that felt like years. Systems were scarred, trade routes broken, and the night skies of many worlds still glowed with the fire of wrecked ships. Yet through it all, one truth held steady. Earth did not waver. Human fleets pressed forward with unshakable resolve. Every loss only hardened their will. Every attack against their new ally only sharpened their fury. And now the tide of battle began to turn. On the edge of a contested system, the largest fleet battle of the war raged. Thousands of ships exchanged fire, beams tearing across the void, missiles streaking like falling stars. Explosions rolled in silence across the darkness. At the center of it all, Earth's carriers pushed through, their shields blazing as squadrons of fighters broke enemy lines. The alien warrior, once a lone figure in the desert, now stood aboard a human flagship. She had been brought there not as a prisoner, but as a symbol. Human officers saluted her as she passed. Soldiers whispered her name with respect, and everywhere she went, she felt the weight of their loyalty. She watched the battle unfold on wide screens. The human she had once saved now commanded a squadron himself. His voice echoed through the comms, steady and fearless. She thought of the broken soldier she had carried from the sands, and she saw now the man he had become. Strong, resolute, unyielding, like his people, the enemy fought desperately, but fear had begun to spread through their ranks. They had believed humanity would fight as others did, with caution, with hesitation. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to stop, an enemy that valued loyalty above fear, an enemy that fought as if every ship lost was a fire to fuel the next strike. And in the silence between volleys, the enemy leaders finally realized the truth. This war had never been about territory or resources. It had never been about politics. It had begun with one life saved, one act of mercy, one hand extended. That was what made humans unstoppable. On the flagship's command deck, the alien warrior turned to a human admiral, her voice low. "They will not surrender easily." The admiral's eyes were hard but calm. "Neither will we. Not while you stand with us." Her chest tightened. For the first time, she understood fully the bond she had created. It was no chain, no prison. It was a promise, a bond humans would honor to the end. The battle lasted for hours. When it ended, wreckage drifted in silence, the enemy fleet broken, their command ships destroyed. Across the galaxy the message spread. Earth had won. Humanity had once again shown why it was feared, why it was respected, why every star carried stories of their wrath. But in the heart of that victory, the story of one alien and one soldier shone brightest. Soldiers across the fleets told it again and again, of the warrior who chose to save a human when no one else would. Her act had changed the galaxy. Her choice had turned whispers into war, and war into legend. The alien warrior stood at the edge of a human memorial, watching as names of the fallen were carved into light. She felt the weight of the dead, but also the pride of the living. Around her, soldiers bowed their heads, honoring comrades who had given everything. The human soldier she had saved came to stand beside her. His voice was quiet. "This war began with you," she shook her head. "No, it began with a promise your people carry in their hearts. I only struck the spark. You carried the fire." He looked at her, his eyes steady. "Then we carried it together." In that moment she understood the depth of humanity's soul. They did not fight for conquest or power. They fought for bonds. They fought for loyalty. They fought because one act of mercy, no matter how small, could never be forgotten. The galaxy would remember this war as one of destruction and fire. But history would remember it as something greater, the war born from a rescue, the war that proved humanity's loyalty was a weapon stronger than any fleet. As the alien warrior walked among human soldiers, she no longer felt alone. She was not just an outsider who had made a reckless choice. She was part of something larger, something unbreakable, and she knew this truth. Saving a human had changed everything. It had changed her life, her people, and the galaxy itself, because when you save a human, you do not just save one life. You gain a world, you gain a fleet, you gain a loyalty that burns brighter than any star, and once Earth moves for you, the galaxy will never be the same.